Well, good morning. I'm John Morton, the Director of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. One of the enduring mysteries of the Second World War is what happened to the Rosenberg Diary. We have solved that mystery, and today we announce the recovery of the long-lost Rosenberg Diary, the meticulous reflections of one of Nazi Germany's most important leaders, Alfred Rosenberg. Rosenberg was a close confidant of Adolf Hitler, ranking member of the Nazi Party, and an influential figure of the Third Reich. Among many dark achievements, Rosenberg served as the head of the Nazi Party's Foreign Affairs Department at the International Military Tribunal in Nuremberg, Germany, found guilty, and he was hanged on October 16, 1946. The diary which we have recovered is to my left. While hanged for his crimes, Rosenberg did not take all of his secrets to the grave. Instead, he left behind the diary he kept from 1934 to 1944. The diary was seized by the victorious Allies, and portions were used by the prosecution at Nuremberg. Sometime between 1946 and 1949, however, most of the diary wandered off and was lost to history. Lost, that is, until now. After more than 60 years of mystery, we now know that the diary was smuggled into the United States, likely by Dr. Robert Kempner, one of the U.S. prosecutors at Nuremberg. It has been here in the United States ever since. While I cannot disclose many of the details of how we ultimately found the diary, I can say that working with the Holocaust Museum and the United States Attorney's Office, agents from ICE's Homeland Security Investigations Office in Wilmington tracked the diary down and seized it for formal forfeiture proceedings. We believe that what we have recovered is the original diary and that there are no copies. This diary is literally one of a kind. We ultimately intend to transfer the diary to the Holocaust Museum pursuant to an agreement between the National Archives and the museum. Why is the Rosenberg Diary of such significance? Because as time marches on, there are fewer and fewer living victims and witnesses to the horrors of the Third Reich. 68 years have passed since the fall of Berlin, and soon there will be no more human testimony of what happened during the Holocaust, and just as important, of how it happened. So it is critical to locate and preserve all written records from this time period. Standing here today, we still don't know the full significance of the diary. There simply hasn't been the time to study it in depth. That awaits. At first glance, however, we already see that the Rosenberg Diary is no ordinary diary of the time. It is the unvarnished account of a Nazi leader, his thoughts, his philosophies, his interactions with other Nazi leaders. Reading Rosenberg's diary is to stare into the mind of a dark soul, a man untroubled by the isolation and violent extermination of Jews and others he deemed undesirable, a man consumed with visions of racial and ethnic superiority. In an entry in his diary on March 28, 1941, for example, he proclaims a recent conference on the Jewish people a success. It is, after all, Rosenberg wrote, the first time in European history that 10 European nations were represented at an anti-Jewish conference with the program to remove this race from Europe. This is not the first time we have recovered items lost or stolen from the war. Indeed, ICE has previously seized and returned Hitler's bookmark, stolen from a Spanish auction house in 2002, a Hebrew Bible stolen from a Jewish couple in Austria on Kristallnacht in 1939, and numerous paintings stolen from Jewish families or local museums throughout Nazi-occupied Europe. And on that note, one of the other infamies for which Mr. Rosenberg is known is the orchestrated looting of art throughout Nazi-occupied Europe, with a particular emphasis on art held by Jews. The Third Reich and the Holocaust were a shameful chapter in our human experience. Millions suffered and disappeared, and today we do our part to preserve our ability to remember that suffering, to learn from it, so that our children's future charts a better course. It is in this spirit that the recovery of the diary is so important. These 400 pages are a window into the dark soul of one of the great wrongs in human history. No longer will we have to guess at what is in them.